What's up, everyone? Welcome to the meetup. Another day, another Tuesday, another episode. As you guys know, the meetup is presented by Diadora. Performance first, crafted and tested at their Italy HQ. Diadora gear is built for speed, the choice of Marco Langen and Simeon Birnbaum, who both added another conference title to their belt this weekend. What's up, everyone?
Oh
Nia
yeah,
Gibson here with Johnny Pace and Olu Olamigoke. How are we doing today?
we
Great to be
good. We
back.
good. We're back. Another Tuesday. Great track and field over the weekend, and finally got like 2 licks of sleep. So we're better than yesterday. Let's do it.
All right, that's a win. What about you, Johnny?
We had fun, didn't we, Nia? Out in the Big
Mhm.
Apple, got to see a lot of whenever there's titles on the line, spots at world teams, the energy is always pretty high, and I definitely felt that, and just had a blast out there. So we made a good team, didn't we?
Oh yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. I loved it,
Yeah.
man.
But
Yeah,
I
me and
wasn't
Johnny
there,
had
so
a
it
lot
doesn't
of fun. Don't hate, don't hate.
count. I wasn't there, so it doesn't
Don't hate,
count.
don't hate. Yeah, me and Johnny had a
We
blast
missed
in the
you.
Big Apple. Yeah, we did miss you. We were at College Station at SECs. I can't wait to get into that. But before we do, there was some drama this weekend, everybody. Yeah, the Atlanta have. Let's talk about it real quick. The top three leaders, Jess McClain, Emma Grace Hurley, and Edna Kurgat, made a wrong turn after a lead vehicle went off course in the final mile. The USATF Half Marathon Championship was a selection event for World Championships, and they issued this statement essentially saying USATF continues to carefully review the incident that occurred at the USATF Half Marathon Championships and resulted in the misdirection of the three athletes.
Mm.
It's a lot, guys.
Yikes.
I think it's a very layered situation because for the top three, I think you'd be, blind or just not tuned in to see that was essentially probably going to be your top three. That was the podium. But then there's another element to it with those who did not make the wrong turn. What about them? Like, are they meant to face certain consequences? Like, there's kind of a toss up in my head about it because there's so many people, elements, and aspects to consider because of the mistake by the lead vehicle.
Yeah,
Yeah, this was
that's nuts. Johnny, you probably have a lot more insight on that because you run those distances. What would it feel like to have come through 11
yeah.
point something miles in a half marathon and then find out that you've ran over a half marathon and lost?
Yeah, this hits close to home, and I feel for these ladies. A lot of these folks are friends. Jess is a friend of mine, and just knowing how long and hard she's worked, and that title was in her grasp, and to have that slip away, it's this is their livelihoods. They spend their lives focused on these moments, and something like being a U.S. champion or making a world team that has real implications in your career. And for somebody like her who has been working so hard for so long, I really feel for her. It hits close to home. I have, something came to mind for me back. I forget if I was in college or high school, but running a local race, much smaller scale, but really running lights out, and one of the best races I'd ever run. It was that win was also in grasp in the same situation, a poorly marked course. I basically ran off the course, and it was short. That in that instance, I was like, it was like I thought it was like a 1 minute PR, and anyways, I had to go back, and there was money on the line, and that jubilation of like, oh my gosh, I just like set like a massive PR, and I took the win and all this money. Like, that's a really deflating feeling to go from that to that. And I think with Jess and the rest of the ladies, it's like they didn't get to experience that. They had to kind of run. I mean, I don't know the exact extra distance, but it was like significant. It was minutes, probably two minutes at least of additional running. And yeah, it's just a really unfortunate situation all around. And prize purses is significant, thousands. I think it was $20,000
That's crazy.
on the line.
That's crazy.
And just from all those layers. And so you ask the question then, all right, so what's the right thing to do? Even if they pay out the other three ladies, I don't know that they're in a position to do that, but like, that's not going to give you the world team spot. Like, that's also a massive honor and a massive implication. And you look at the letter of the law and kind of the statements USATF made about that they need to follow their bylaws, that like, for some details here, it's like, even if the three ladies who technically won the podium deferred their spots, they have to go by rank order. up to 5, up to the 5th position. So even if 1 through 7 or 8 said no, we don't want we defer, you couldn't. Technically, under the way the law is written, there's really no recourse unless they kind of do something unprecedented, which honestly I think is the right thing to do. Like this was a pretty rare exception. Even if it was halfway, if it was 10 miles, I think within the final mile here, like I really hope that what's going to happen is that they'll kind of have kind of an emergency revision and send those rightful 3 ladies on to Worlds. But we're gonna have to see how it pans out. It got a lot of people very, very emotional. There's a lot of outpouring of support, and I think people are on the side of these ladies and Jess, who probably ought to have been top of that podium.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You kind of hit every nail on the head that could be hit. I just feel like it's not fair. It's not one of those it's a different situation if they cut this course. But one thing that's meant to be is they were led off the course, and they didn't just make a wrong turn. They were led the wrong way. And I know USATF essentially did have to say, it's on the local organizing committee, which in this case it was Atlanta Track Club, and it is. And you saw the head of Atlanta Track Club come out and take full responsibility. But even still, that is sport. But at the same time, when you abide by the rules within sport, you have to trust that those rules are going to be working in your favor. It's kind of like what we were talking about last week with Masalela, who was pointing the gun in someone's face. Like we were saying that there's no rules against that, so they should let it run. But at the same time, if you're running a half marathon, the rule is you follow the lead vehicle, right? So if the lead vehicle misleads you, there needs to be some back end recourse, shouldn't there?
And you look at the video, it's an armada. It's like lead vehicle, motorcycle, photographer, car. It was like a whole fleet of like 5 vehicles that like, how could you be insane to like say to ignore that, especially with the adrenaline of closing in on that final mile? Like that would be an insane proposition to say, I'm going to just run a different direction than the 5 different types of vehicles in front of me. Also worth noting, there's 30 turns in this course. If you're going to make the argument of like, you should know this by heart. Like there's a twisting and turning. It's not. That's kind of it's a lot to ask of anybody.
You're running 13.1 miles. I'm sorry. I've never run a half marathon, so I'm sure marathoners know this. You guys probably run the course, walk the course, but I don't even care if you run 50 marathons. If you are half marathons, that's a lot of running to be on fumes, trying to make a world team and expect somebody to have the cognizance to do the extra cognitive load to say, this is going that way. I should go this way because this is the course I know. You trust the official vehicles. And I feel like, we're talking in circles at this point, but it's like, I think it's just distasteful. It sucks though. I'm glad that the leader of Atlanta Track Club came out and to make that statement, taking full accountability. But I really do hope that there's some type of recourse, even if it's not necessarily reinstating them to the actual team, then financially, because it's there was a statement that the two of the top 3 actually did hope that the people who did finish top 3 get those spots. But I still feel like there should be some type of financial recourse because this is their livelihood.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. As updates come, we'll make sure that we'll keep you guys posted. Obviously, follow us on FloTrack, and we'll update you guys as we get updated. But let's just move it forward, guys. Keely Hodgkinson also ran this weekend. She ran the 400, so a bit of an under distance for the 800-meter specialist. Let's take a look.
We peel off now into lane 1 and take the bell. Well, that's what it comes down to, and Keely's just held off there and maintained that first.
She came through in 24 point.
And what an amazing run this is. She just looks so majestic. You would not think she is an 800-meter specialist.
The wheels.
400-meter specialist, the way she is running this race, it is so impressive. Shown tremendous strength. An effortless run as she comes off the bend in into the home straight, leaving the others in her wake and cutting across the line. No problems at all. Louisa Stoney finishing in second place.
Yeah, so she would go on to run 51:49. She looked like a real quarter miler there. I think sometimes when you put certain athletes under their distance, they look like somebody who's running under their distance. But in this scenario, she got the cutover. She fought for the cutover early. Her stride was very open. The wheels were turning. The speed was there. I would be very curious to see her run a 400 amongst other people who would be competitive with her, because she ran that 51 point essentially by herself.
Yeah, she came through in 24 points. So I mean, she's rolling. Like, and if it's kind of one of those situations, you look at Femke Bol, like how she was. We were talking about how she cleaned 240 something pounds. Like she has power. She has ability to produce that type of rate of force development very quickly. So clearly, Keely has some power under her legs too. So I would love to see her race against some of the real dogs in the quarter. Like imagine Keely versus like a I mean, honestly, we could say a Femke Bowl or a flat 400. This is like fantasy matchups at this point, but I mean, yeah, it'd be really cool to see that.
I want to see
There's a
Keely
reason
versus Amber.
people. Yeah,
I want to see
there's a
that. I
reason
did.
people say that.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's like that they say the 800 is one of the hardest distances, and I think this is a good illustration of why it's kind of sits in that middle position between sprinting and long distance. And I think to be somebody at the top of that event, like you really need to showcase both. And I feel like traditionally you're usually seeing more distance leaning athletes coming down to the 8, but it's really cool to see somebody thrive and excel on that sprint. It's a different muscle group almost, and both are pretty equally important because the 800 is kind of right there in that slot where you need both speed and endurance. It is kind of like a long sprint. That's impressive. I mean, looking at that clip, just seeing the level of relaxation and good form that she's carrying through that. It bodes well, and it shows you why she's Keely. It shows you why she's got records in her name and is one of the best 800 runners ever.
I'm not surprised. Like the way she runs the 800, though, is very different from a lot of other people. She's a speed-based 800-meter runner. She's one of those half milers that really shows the intersections between, like, I think sprints and mid distance. And it's also, I think, a big reason why people like to argue that 800 is not a distance race. They find it hard to fathom a distance race under 2 minutes. And I sometimes couldn't agree more. It's a very hard sprint sometimes. I think if you look in certain instances, and Keely is kind of case in point for that argument. But like what I was trying to say is like I really would love to see her race her countrywoman of Amber Anning. I think Amber would win, but I would love to know what time Amber can pull Keely to. Because Keely's also, she ain't scared. She's a dog. So I think she can like essentially be on her heels for a lot of that race. But we'll see. That's
and also,
my little wish list.
I mean, also you have to understand, with that 800-meter endurance underneath her belt, she might be able to hang through that too. Like I just said, she just came through in 24. If someone pulls her through a little bit, I think it's 24 low. I couldn't see the exact split, but if someone pulls her through a little bit faster, you can trust that she's going to have a second half of the race to be able to be a lot stronger than whoever might be solely like a 2-4 type person. And then it's really just down to really, like you said, who's the dog? Who's the biggest dog in this race at this point? And I would lean to the person with the 800-meter strength under their legs. But hey, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We gotta just put this in the atmosphere. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't.
We'll see. Well, we do know it will be a no puppies allowed zone, big dogs only. Just like at the USATF Indoor Track and Field Championships this weekend, Johnny and I were both there, and we saw some big dogs in action. I think it'd be appropriate to start with the men's 60-meter. There was a lot of talk beforehand, a lot of talk after. Jordan Anthony would go on and take the win. He would run 6:45 ahead of Trayvon Bromell 6:47, and his training partner, who came third, Noah Lyles, would finish in 6:51. Guys, thoughts?
All right, Jordan, we said it was going to happen. I'm not surprised. I think the bigger shock isn't that Jordan Anthony won. I mean, we said this man came out. We talked about how he had a year, kind of getting thrown to the wolves, to the big dogs in terms of being a pro for the first year. He came into this year with that confidence. He's been clearly trusting his coaching. We talked about how trusting your coaching plus trusting your ability leads to these type of breakthrough moments. 6:45, it's nuts. I'm not surprised by Jordan Anthony won in the slightest. I'm more surprised. Actually, maybe I'm not even surprised. But I think in all this talk of Noah v. Jordan for the belt, we completely forgot about a young man named Trayvon Bromell. One of the greatest to ever, one of the greatest starters and let alone 60 runners to do this. And so I think the bigger conversation point isn't that Jordan Anthony won. It's not even really that Trayvon got second. I mean, maybe it's not even that Noah got third, rather, but it's that maybe we forgot about Trayvon Bromell in there too.
Who forgot about him? You didn't see my talking head? Come on now.
You know what I'm saying. We're going into it.
I feel you.
Yes, yeah.
No. It's hard to forget about Trayvon. I think, he's easily one of the greatest starters in history. And I think something that's important to note is last year, this time he had to scratch. He was
Yeah.
having an amazing indoor season, and then all of a sudden we're seeing DNS next to Trayvon's name when it's time to run the 60. I was sick because I just knew he was about to pull something good. But I think the fact that he's able to come back this time next year, this time last year, yeah,
Yeah.
and play second and punch a ticket to Poland, it means something. It's a lot, especially being that he actually doesn't have that many 60s under his belt this indoor season.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
It's cool to see the different kind of personalities at play, and I think I loved seeing kind of the joy of Jordan celebrating that moment. Trayvon doing what he does, that was really impressive, and I love that kind of, like you said, that arc of him coming back from injury last year to go on and have such success in the Diamond Leagues was one of my favorite storylines. And then I think maybe perhaps kind of the showmanship of Noah and the storylines, which I also think is really exciting and makes that fun for us to follow, like with the belt. That maybe was what dominated some of the dialogue, but just all three of those gentlemen put on great runs in their own different ways. And yeah, Noah coming, that's a very short distance, and it's cool to see him square off in that field of play. And then it kind of hand the belt over. It's the other thing is like they're training partners, and so it's rising tide lifting all ships. Like no surprise Jordan's running as well as he is when he's training with somebody like Noah, and vice versa. So yeah, all in good fun, and definitely happy for Jordan to get that big moment.
Yep.
Definitely. I think there was a lot of pure athletics representation going on at USA's, including in the 400. So Caleb McRae would go on to win 45.01, nearly breaking 45, and he was ahead of his pure athletics trading partner, Chris Robinson, who would come second, 45.36. Also with them, you can see obviously that there's a culture within that group where there's a lot of love, but there's a lot of healthy competition. I spoke to Chris after the race, and he was like, yeah, I'll let him get the cut over, things like that, let him get the win. He said it'll be a different story in Poland, though. So I'll be very interested to see that. Not only is he declaring USA going 1-2 in Poland, but one being himself, which is Chris. So we'll see what happens there. But I think overall, again, it's all love, it's all fun. But you can also tell it's like, regardless of the love, still want to win. So we'll see what happens there. I'm really excited for both Caleb and Chris.
I think we got to go head down and see what these guys are doing. They got something going on good there.
Oh, that's another no puppies allowed zone. Pure athletics, they get it popping over there. We will see. We shall see. Cooper Luckyhouse also ran. And I mean, so said, so done. He did win the men's 800. So Cooper would go on and he would win in 146.68. Sean Dolan would come second, 147.16. Isaiah Harris, 147.22. This weekend was a very tactical weekend for Cooper. In the first round of the 800, as he was running, he was like, looking behind him and making sure that he was in good positioning. He was making sure he came in at a certain point. And if they came in at a certain point in the first 200, that's what would dictate his race strategy. That's what he was saying in the prelims. And then in the finals, it was very much so a thing where we all know what Cooper runs 2 seconds faster than what he displayed this weekend. But it was just one of those things where it's like, listen, run to win, punch your ticket, keep it pushing. And once again, the youngster is now 6 for 6 in his pro career.
What I say, you go to Worlds once, you have a bad experience at Worlds once, you take that under your belt, you come back and you know what to do next time around. This young man has the experience of being at a World Championships less than a year ago, and he gets last season, not last indoor season, last outdoor season. So he's coming fresh off of that into this. Like, it's just the way, I know if you look at his performance in Tokyo, you could say it might have been a disappointment, although I don't think anybody really would be disappointed in Cooper. But you might be able to frame it as like a disappointment. He didn't perform how he wanted to. But if you zoom out at the macro of this whole career of his that he's having right now, especially since his breakout year last year, things are just falling right into place. Not everybody gets to go to Worlds and then come back to another World Championship in form on the indoor season. I still stand by him being, a pick for getting a medal in Worlds. And I think that experience of him running the rounds in Tokyo led to him performing and learning how to run the rounds properly here in Staten Island, which is just going to continue to plan out into Poland.
He said that, after losing at Worlds, he was like, yeah, I didn't like that feeling. I'm not used to losing. And at this point in time, he's never been in better shape. So I will obviously second that. I think he'll definitely medal, maybe win.
I think it's so impressive. A first year pro, I mean, that can be challenging. Oftentimes, there's an adaptation period where you kind of got to bridge the gap between people that have been at it at a professional level for years. I mean, not the case with Cooper. We, like you said, we've seen him consistently all season, just firing on all cylinders. What a cool thing. He really dominated this race. Like, just to see a 17-year-old, kind of controlling races with people double his age is it's a sight to behold. It was cool to see the love and excitement that the fans were having for him, and we're just getting started. I just saw this morning. I'm connected with his coach on Instagram, and I'm just going to hold that up, but it says champ on Sunday, back to school Monday. I'm just thinking, what a cool thing. This kid's, he's like, what'd you do over the weekend? And he pulls up with his gold medal.
Yeah, just became a national champ. No biggie. What'd you do this weekend? Play video games?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, this is the same school that threw a whole pep rally for this man. So yeah, that's nuts. I can't fathom it. It's weird how these Cooper Lichtenhouse can't even buy a lottery ticket. Can we say that?
That's a lot of things.
You see what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Let's drinking age out of it. He can't even buy a lotto ticket. Like, come on, man. What is going on? What is going on?
I never thought about that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, you can't even buy no scratch off.
Man, Cooper, you could be a little lucky. Maybe it was, imagine he wins the lottery, just quit track. Don't quit track. But guys, all right. Cole Hocker also made an appearance this weekend. He ran the 3,000 and the 15. Before we get into the 15, though, he did win the 3,000, 7:39.25, followed by Yared Nuguse, 7:39.28, and Nico Young, 7:39.29. It was, as you can tell by the very close distances, it was a race to the end, and Cole would essentially go on to outkick everybody. It was one of those things where it's very indicative of the nature of indoor season, where it comes down to that final stretch, who positions himself the best and who can make the most of that situation. Johnny, you were in the infield. I'd love to know your perspective of that race.
Yeah, it's electric. I think we've seen time and time again, Cole is somebody who, if it comes down to a kick, you probably better watch yourself, because he doesn't lose those too often. And I wish we had the kind of the Omega timing photo of the finish, because it's split by hairs, and Cole, he knows how to finish. Like they always say, run through the line, but even leaning through the line, and in this case, it was the lean that got him ahead of Nico and Yared. But just unbelievable. I mean, from my perspective, shooting it almost looks like they're, it's anybody's guess. But I think just given Cole's track record of these sorts of situations, it obviously he took that win, and it's important again with these indoor 200-meter tracks, your windows to make moves. It's a lot more critical even than an outdoor track where you have a little more space to work with. You don't have to take the corners as tight. But these 200 laps go by very quickly, and every millisecond counts, as far as how you time your move. Or for example, the straightaway is 50 meters rather than 100. So that's a lot less real estate to work with, and all the more impressive that he was able to kind of make that move as quickly as he did. But that's a electric race as always. No surprise there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was one of them type of races. So was the men's 1500. As I mentioned before, and I'll repeat the results. Nathan Green won 337.65. Luke Hauser 337.67. Vincent Ciotti 337.73. Yared 338.06. Cole 338.08. That was one of those races where, like the 3,000, very indicative of indoor nature. It was a lot of bumping. It became a contact sport about halfway through. And because this is significantly shorter than 3K and up, your positioning really does matter. And I honestly think that is what lost Yared and Cole this race. And obviously outside of podium range, they I know for Cole, he entered that last 200 in sixth place. And while he may have the dominant kick in the field, there's only so much you can do when you run out of real estate. His positioning just wasn't the greatest. It wasn't in like typical Cole fashion. And I think it's just one of those things where it just slipped away. Obviously, no discredit to Nathan, Luke, and Vincent. They ran amazing races. Nathan actually ran a personal best. But the positioning of that race, especially in indoor season when you're not having as much wiggle room to like move around, I think that was a costly thing. And the winner of that race was the person that positioned themselves the best.
Yeah.
I mean, you hit the
Cole,
head there too.
Cole obviously went into talking to him before the meet. He was going after that double. Certainly having 2 golds is better than 1, but I think it keeps it interesting. Sometimes we you just assume by default somebody's going to win something, and that's time I like seeing new faces mix it up, just showing that nothing's ever guaranteed. Nobody's has a perfect record. You have to earn every single race, and also I think maybe more importantly, for those people that aren't the names that we're saying every week, that doesn't mean that you can't have your moment. And case in point, these are guys that are always in the mix, and it's cool to have them have a big moment like that, because anything can happen, and that's nothing more exhibitive than something like that. So that was a good one to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to go for the double gold. It's difficult to win one. It's difficult to get on the podium and get a ticket to Poland. But like, it's difficult. So we cannot discredit that. But it's one of those things where you're just like, dang, if anyone was going to do it, it probably would have been Cole. But people did do it this weekend. Let's go to the women's long jump. Jasmine Moore. She won the women's long jump and the women's triple jump. In the long jump, she jumped 686. In the triple jump, 1389. We spoke to Jasmine before both of her competitions, and she was saying, she found joy in this. She's having so much fun. And while like last season wasn't like her favorite in her career, this was one of those things where she's like, okay, let me find the joy in this again. This is fun. I'm a track and field athlete. I do this for a living. And we're seeing how that fun and joy translates to her performances. And yeah, double champion in both the long and the triple. I think she's a special athlete in those rights because, while at the end you're both jumping into a sandpit, they're 2 very different events. And she's able to adapt in both of them, dominate in both of them, and now will be competing in both of them for Team USA in Poland.
Yeah, let's not even pretend to be surprised. I mean, Jasmine doing Jasmine things, double medalist in the Olympic Games. She's bringing that same energy to everywhere she goes. I think what I find most impressive is kind of like, we watch these running events, and sometimes people aren't necessarily dropping the times on indoor tracks, and obviously because the track is indoors. But sometimes, even if you were to put some of these athletes, aside from like a Keely Hodgkinson, who just ran an indoor world record and things like that, if you put the majority of athletes on an outdoor track during the indoor season, the times might not necessarily drop that much because of where they are in their training cycle. So to see that Jasmine was able to come out here, jump 680, like to be able to come out here and do that in both horizontal jumps, the correlation that you have to understand is like she's also not that far down in her training cycle. She's also getting ready for a season that's going to extend into August, September. So to be able to come out and be that dominant this early, putting up 680 plus, I think if you get over, Jasmine, she's on another caliber. But at the same time, I think in the women's long jump, if you're getting in the neighborhood of 670, 680 in the indoor season, you're setting yourself up pretty nicely for outdoors because there's no wind inside. You still have a lot of load on your body. You're probably still having your bounding and all these other heavy types of plyometrics you're doing. I don't know their training specifically, but I'm just venturing to guess that she doesn't necessarily have her legs under her. So the dominance that is Jasmine Moore can never be understated. I also think we need to give a shout out to Monet Nichols, who jumped 672. Monet is always in the game. Monet is always doing her thing. I think Monet is another one that we also got to watch out for. I'm not sure she has a standard just yet. Standard is 675 for indoors. But at the same time, she's probably going to go just based on the list. And honestly, I think Monet is another one where you never want to count her out. She's another clutch performer too. So we got a lot to look forward to.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, wait, hold on. Monet has a standard.
Oh, okay. We'll go back on that part.
Olu, I'm curious, man. Can you tell me as a jumper, specifically, like, can you just put in perspective kind of winning both of those events? Like, what is that different? Like, how would you compare it to what differences it requires? Is it essentially doing the same thing twice in a row? Is it like running an 800 and a 5K? Like, I really have no frame of reference on like what the distinctions would be and like what it would mean to require to kind of win double titles in the jumps.
It's a great question. I can't relate it to an 800 or a 5K, although I have run both. Okay, both suck, but the jumps at least, I'll speak from my perspective. I was a long and triple jumper throughout high school, and I didn't even though I didn't do it when I was pro, I did do it in college. And I think the number one thing you have to understand is a lot of times these jumpers have one preference or the other. Some jumpers might prefer the triple and then happen to long jump really well, or vice versa. I usually see that as the triple jumpers that actually like come down to long jump who end up enjoying it a little bit more. For me, technically speaking, physically speaking, with the triple jump, you're still running fast, but there's a little bit more, a tad bit more control, a little bit less recklessness, so to speak, because we still have to carry the speed through every phase. So there's a little bit more postural control and a little bit more, I should say, relaxed running, so to speak, going into the board. Now, obviously, you still want to be relaxed and you're running on the long jump, but the long jump, you hit the board and take off. So long jump for me was like, I'm not thinking about nothing. I'm just boom, booking and running and jumping. And so triple jump, there's always a little bit more, there's a little bit more finesse, where long jump was a more just like raw power output, didn't have to think as much. So I think the way that you could think about it, again, relating it in terms that make more sense for me, is looking at like maybe like a 400 versus like a 100 or even a 60. Like, I mean, maybe the differences are not exactly like that, but if you think about a 400, you got to be a little more tactical. You got to get out first 50 to 75, 100 meters. You got to float. You got to start getting ready to pick it up again. You got to think about those steps a little bit more. It's kind of like the triple jump, not thinking that much, but in terms of the technicality. And then as far as the 60, you're just driving out, executing, and the race is over before you know it. That was a long jump for me.
Nice. I'm glad we have a pro that could speak to that. So thank you.
yeah, for sure.
No, definitely. That's a great way to segue into the men's long jump, though. Guys, Stephen McCarter, he would win with 8:10. Jeremiah Davis would come second with 8:08. While Cordell Tinch finished sixth, he was the only one in the field with the world standard. So in a world, if Stephen and Jeremiah don't get that standard by, I believe it's Sunday, Cordell punched his ticket to Poland. So I would love to know, Olu, your thoughts on that.
I think, well, I'm not surprised. So I have a couple thoughts. You know, when it comes to the field events or any track and field in general, a lot of events you can kind of just go out there and just do it, perform it. With running events, of course, there's a little bit more race planning and all these different types of things. The field events, especially for me, especially if I hadn't done an event or hadn't competed for a while, it's easy to just go out. If you're in shape, and Cordell's been running in some type of shape, it's easy to just go out there and perform. And he just went out there and jumped that 8:29 like it was nothing a couple weeks ago. When you have to come back around, it's one thing to just put something out and you're like, I wasn't even expecting that. Well, now when you have a little bit of expectation on yourself, that can kind of make it hard to perform again. Now, I'm not saying that's what's happening in Cordell's case, but what I am saying is that I would love to see how he goes out and performs in Poland, because if he does make that team, I think it's going to go back to how it was when he jumped for the first time this season. Because remember, this will only be like his third time jumping this season, right? So I think what would be really cool is that, again, it goes back to, well, I'm here. I didn't expect to be here. Maybe he did. He didn't tell us early on. But I think it's in one of those situations where it's like, I jumped once. Oh, wow, I blew my mind. Came back, let me try to do some things. Maybe it didn't pan out how you might have thought it was. Go back to drawing board, wipe it all off. Now you have third time's the charm. Just go out there and have some fun again at the world stage, which we know Cordell Tinch knows how to do. And I don't think he's afraid of anybody on that long jump runway. So I'm excited to see that. I'm also hoping that Jeremiah Davis can make the team again. That's one of my guys. He's also a very talented competitor, one fun to watch. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does, but I would love to see Cordell on that team somehow. That'd be really cool.
Well, there's still hope. They have a little less than a week to find a meet, jump the standard, and get it popping with team processing, go to Poland.
Yeah.
Did you talk to Cordell after the jumps?
I did.
Me? I haven't connected with him in a little bit. We were going to talk to him a few weeks back, but I haven't connected with him outside of just texting. At one point, I'm going to dive into his mental space, but I kind of want to do that at the end of the season because, I think when you're in the middle of the season, you're as an athlete, you're actively processing the things that you're doing, right? So it's when you are able to then maybe, I mean, we know the break between indoor and outdoor is like 2 seconds long. But even then, when you're able to look back and reflect on what happened, I think we'll be able to give us a more coherent response. Now, I'm not going to go inside Cordell's head and say that's what he's thinking, but out of respect for his season, I just kind of want to see what he does what he has to say about it all at the end. Because this is still just a side quest at the end of the day.
Yeah, I spoke to him after he was done, and he wasn't like, he obviously wasn't thrilled. He was like, "Yeah, I didn't jump great. I don't know what that was about." But I think there's like a confidence there that he's going to Poland because he's also made it clear he's like, "I'm the only one with the standard." So
Yeah. And again, it goes back to my point. Pressure's off. Now it's like, okay, I jumped once, got it out. I know I proved that I can do what I needed to do. Came back, probably worked on some things. And you try to work on some things in training and pull into competition. It doesn't always translate. But I think now that he's had 2 experiences on the belt, one maybe really successful, one less than what he was expecting. I think he can go into Poland with that, like, okay, I've done this. I know what I can do. Let's just go out there and just do it.
yep, we will see. There was a bit of confidence there, or a lot of confidence there, but just a bit of disappointment from the performance. But I don't think it was anything that shook him to his core. So we
Yeah.
will see. Let's move on, guys, to the women's 60 before we close off this recap. Jason Sears would go on to win 7:04. But something also interesting in this race, Mia Maxwell. She would come second behind Jason Sears, running 7:13, and that is a high school number 2 all-time mark, and that punches the high schoolers' ticket to Poland. So Cooper's not the only one that's going to be having to try to combat, high school spring break assignments, and then also traveling overseas to compete for Team USA. I would say like the hardest team to make. Mia Maxwell, the Texas commit, will also be joining him.
Well, look at that. You
What
got
about third?
two. Oh yeah. What about third? Let's talk about third too before we even skip
Oh,
over.
yes, Mariah Maxwell also ran.
I was seeing
Yes,
double.
yeah, 7:15. I do love seeing double, but it's top 2 that makes it to Poland. So I guess indicates like I think what can happen is Mariah would act as an alternate in case something were to happen to the first 2.
Yep. Now so you just talked about it real quick. You touched on it. U.S. number 2 all-time high school girls 60 meters for Mia Maxwell. That makes 2 U.S. number 2 marks for Mia Maxwell this year. First one, of course, I mentioned a couple times on the triple jump. Now, I still feel like she's capable of jumping another 3/4 of an inch to take that triple jump national record. But let's zoom out here. This young woman has 11.0 speed as a junior in high school, and she's running with
Yep.
the biggest of dogs, running in the 60 at the World Championships. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. And like, I'm partial because I've spoken to her many times over the past year or so, and she's such a humble but like very grounded and articulate young lady. So I asked her one time, like, how do you find so much success in what you're doing? Like, you're in high school, but you're at the same time you're putting up these marks that are very consistent and consistently at the top of the marks that have ever been done. And one of the things she told me back last in December when we spoke, she's like, I'm just staying true to who I am. I've just trusted my training and I'm staying true to whom I am. And that kind of got me thinking, especially after this past weekend, a lot of athletes that we'll get into in a little bit with SECs, but a lot of these athletes are talking about staying true to who they are. It's important that, especially as a high schooler, you are one of the greatest athletes to ever do it in high school, let alone probably going to be having a career, one of the greatest to ever do it, full stop. And it's so impressive to see how these athletes are so grounded to know that I am Mia Maxwell. I am whoever I am. I just happen to do this track thing really, really well. And I always like to shout out that message because who you are off the track really influences who you are on the track and how you perform and how you stay grounded when you're finding success. So go big ups to Mia, big ups to Mariah, big ups to Jacius as well. All these ladies are very young. They have such bright futures ahead of them, and Jacius included. And I'm really excited. That's an event to watch in Poland for sure.
Yeah, I love that you brought up Jacius too, because I think to her point, her experience running with that 4x1 at World Championships last year, you can see the difference in how she's carrying herself in her second year as pro. Also, wanted to mention with Mariah, I said 7:15. She ran that in the prelims. She ran 7:14. My bad, in the finals to come third. But let's talk about NCAA Conference Week, guys. It wasn't just USA's, and the NCAA Conference they were moving, running and gunning. Some of which faster than some of the USA performances, guys. Before we get into that, check out the latest college rankings that just dropped on FloTrack. But I think let's all pick our moments, nuggets, whatever of the meet. And of course, I'm going to go first. The SEC freshmen. So SECs was great. Obviously, we know they get down to SEC. It's probably arguably the strongest conference in sports. Let's just keep it a buck, right? But the freshmen in general, for me, I think they were moving. And I think leading that charge is Deja Hodge of Georgia, 22:32. Personal best, facility record. She beat out, I'd say, the favorite, Jamesia Ford, who ran 22:61, and then Cameron Dixon coming third, 22:76. So she's one of like probably standout freshmen that performed this weekend at SECs. And also, I would be remiss not to talk about Elise Cooper and Sydney Sutton. They made the 200 final. Elise ran 22:80, Sydney ran 22:93, and this one was near and dear to my heart because less than a year ago, we were covering both of them at like New Balance Nationals after they've run so well. So it was so nice to see that the high school to freshman, the high school to college freshman pipeline slide, like what is it? They ain't doing too bad for freshmen. You know what I'm saying? Maddie Cooper of UGA, she scored for the Dogs. She came seventh with 8:05 in the 60-meter hurdles. And obviously, we have on the men's side, 3 freshmen showed up and showed out in the 400 meters. And I think leading that charge, we got to talk about Jonathan Sims, who came third and ran 45:23 at College Station. The SEC freshman, and that's just a little bit of them because there are a lot of them did really well. I just don't have time to talk about all of them.
Yeah, and I was there, and I'm just like, Deja did what? Jonathan did who? Yeah. Like it's just. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna scream it from the mountaintops. The ceiling has become the floor. The ceiling has become the floor. These athletes are rewriting the books and what it means, what the normal is going to be going forward. That Deja was probably my most impressive that to see, just like of the freshmen that you just brought up, because Deja, you see when you go to these track meets, you see young talent and you can tell they're young. Maybe it's the demeanor, maybe it's how they seem kind of meek, but when they race, like, oh, they're really talented. Deja walks in this place like she has been here. She walks in this place like it's her house. And when she comes off the track, sometimes freshmen that jump or run really well, or you can kind of tell that they're like really excited, like their emotions will come out, which I love seeing emotional reactions. I'm no one to tell you not to. But Deja walked off. She's like, you could tell she was happy, but she kind of looked at the clock, was like, she had this little grit in her teeth. I was like, ooh, I love it.
More in the tank,
I love it. I love it.
There's more in it. We still got nationals in like 2 weeks, if even that, and then wait till outdoors. Deja about to be Deja is a dog. She goes to UGA, but she's a dog,
Olympian.
Like a dog.
She's let's not forget she is a 2024 Olympian. Like she's bringing that energy. So yeah, it's oof. Ooh, it was fun to watch. It was really fun to watch.
Oh yeah, I got chills. All right, what's your pick, Olu?
Okay, I gotta talk. My pick first and foremost has to be to the 4 false starts that I saw in the hurdles. It was like 3 or 4. Honestly, for me, when I have a camera in my hand, if I see 2 false starts, I'm already just locked in. I stopped watching the race in front of me, and I start looking at the scoreboard because I got to be ready to catch whoever comes across the line. But in the prelims, they were like, I forgot which heat it was. There were 2 or 3 false starts, and then what ended up happening was Jaqueline Scott ended up beating Kendrick Smallwood by the thousandths of a second. Both of them ran 7:46. Jacoby Tharp came back in the following heat, ran 7:46. This is all on Friday night in the prelims of the SEC 60-meter hurdles. 7:46 is the fastest time run in the NCAA this year. 3 of these men did this all in the span of 15 minutes. Then they come back, and I had put out saying maybe these guys are going to run quite a bit faster because now they're all going to be in the same heat on Saturday. And you know what? I still got to tip my hats off to Jacoby. I got to tip my hats off to Jaqueline and to Kendrick and everybody else in that field, because there were like, again, I lost count. It was either 3 or 4 false starts that happened in that final alone. And then Jacoby still came out and won in 7:48. What if there weren't those false starts? What if we didn't have to deal with, people who are now, you false start once, okay, fine, charges to the field. False start again, charges to the field, which by the way, they charge every single one of them to the field. Now it kind of has you a little bit hesitant. Now you're like, okay, is this going to be called back too? For all of them to be that locked in and still be able to drop under 750, and particularly to Jacoby for running 7:48, only 200s off of that nation-leading time. I feel like there weren't that many false starts. Maybe they would have even run faster. I have no doubt about that. In any case, nationals is right around the corner. And I think when we see all these guys in the same heat, maybe we'll get treated to something sub 7:45, like I was hoping to see at SECs.
This is one of those events, I think, where the SECs for particularly the men's 60-meter hurdles serves as a nationals preview. So we will be seeing this again. We'll see what happens, and hopefully the gun don't start glitching in Arkansas.
And it's like they had an actual fire. Like, this wasn't even the electronic one. We had the caps in the gun. Like, what's going on here? But yeah,
I was watching it on my phone, and I was like, so what's the issue? Yeah. But yeah, hopefully again, that's not the issue at nationals. All right, Johnny, give me your picks.
All right, yeah, I got a couple that come to mind. They're kind of spread out across all parts of the country, but the first one, obviously, Gary Martin defending his 3K title. Always going to be psyched when the Who's are getting gold, but I think other ones that stood out were UW, University of Washington, getting the women's DMR title with a 10:56.18, which was their first DMR title with a meet and facility record. So that was cool. And I think I bring that up not only because I like those girls, but because 3 of them are named Chloe. So I thought that was pretty funny with Chloe Thomas, Chloe Simon, and Chloe Forster, who Olu and I know 2 of those ladies from a shoot we did earlier this year. So yeah, that's right. And but those are not my top moment. My top pick is from Big Tens with Jane Hedengren, who got the title in a meet record and facility record in the 3K. This was Big 12s, not Big 10s, with 8:46.11. So the freshman adds a conference title to her belt, and this was shortly after running I believe it was a 4:26, just a little bit earlier. So the old double. I think something we neglected to mention from USA's, and then obviously not for conferences, is that there's a lot of doubling back, especially if you're trying to get a 15. If you're trying to earn a mile and what is it, 15 and 3K in the same span of 24 hours, the implications on your legs. I think we're only human. Like, you really, those muscles need recovery. So I think it's all the more impressive when people can, double up, triple up. And I don't think it's something we pay enough attention to, but like the turnaround, the ability to execute in a short frame of time is just adds to the impressiveness. And something like the DMR, like you've no doubt had already run individual events, and that's worth noting at least. But a lot of good stuff. Can't wait. I think we have an off weekend now, but NCAA is right around the corner, I think, in 2 weeks.
It is. So we will see what happens there. It's going to be good because I'm telling you, they're sliding, they're moving. Guys, so before we finish off this show, Olu, I want to throw it to you. This new segment that we're going to try here is going to be Olu's Field Report. Tell me what happened. We spoke a little bit about field throughout the show, but what did we forget to mention? What happened that was just like, nah, y'all got to hear about this?
I mean, okay, so we talked about the field report in the fall and how we're going to bring it back towards the indoor season, and we're going to give a little bit of a spotlight to the field events where it deserves and where it matters most. Although there was a couple different things this time around, so we're going to try to keep it as succinct as possible because I could talk about this for days. Emanuel Karalis from Greece, 6'17" in the pole vault, 9 centimeters over his previous personal best. This is the second highest jump of all time, higher than anything Sergey Bubka did in the 90s. Like, come on, man. And as you look at that, your man's got a little bit of space over that. I say a little bit. He's got some more than a little bit of space over that bar. Let me shut up and let y'all take it in.
Wow.
Now, what I love about the pole vaulters is, like, anytime they jump well, they always celebrate themselves. You saw you went out and give somebody a hug right there on the track. They always celebrate each other. And usually you see Mondo having that reaction and people coming over to Mondo, but this time it was Emanuel. And I think what is so impressive about this is, let's take, again, just like we were talking about earlier, let's take a little bit of a zoomed out perspective. We see this performance here, 9 centimeters over his previous personal best. That's nuts. In a pole vault, that's crazy, because now that means he literally set the bar that much higher than he's ever done before. And he went and executed, and he cleared it with such clean form over the bar with a little bit of daylight underneath. The reason why I want to bring this up is because the only person who's gone higher is Mondo, right? And there have been a couple times, Mondo just jumped 606, and he's talking about he took some attempts at 631. But Mondo, we already know who Mondo Duplantis is, blah, 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 blah.
He's my favorite singer.
Rising Tide. You're right. You're right. I know, right? Mondo Duplantis is a singer. But a rising tide lifts all boats. And I think we forget that Karali's boat has been lifting this whole time. And so he was able to pull out such a big performance out of nowhere, seemingly out of nowhere. But he's been knocking on the door for this, maybe not necessarily 617, but just knocking the door for a big performance, whatever the mark might have been for a few years. I don't think we should all be that surprised. So obviously at Worlds, pay attention to this. Mondo v. Manuel. I don't think, and Chris Nielsen and a couple other people in this field as well. I don't think we need to forget that Mondo still has way more bars that are higher than this under his belt. But he's still human, and Emmanuel is on the uptick. So I'm really excited about that. Now, the next thing I want to talk about real briefly is Chase Jackson out here throwing American records just for the fun of it. Once again, 2044 in the women's shot put. And if you watch the video of it, she shouted at that ball, walked out the circle, and was like, boom, that was it. It's always exciting to see someone with the talent of Chase because she's one of those athletes where if you look at her series aren't always as consistent. A lot of the time she might have a big throw and a couple fouls, a negligible throw, and then an American record. Chase is an athlete that you have to watch her in every single throw. And I don't say that as to be an insult. I say that as to congratulate her because it takes a lot. I know some people in field events, you want to always be consistent. Consistency is where you build off and be able to have a big performance. But at the same time, it takes something to be able to be in a bad position and still pull something out at the last second. And I always love to see how Chase Jackson's able to do that. So shout out to Chase. Shout out to Emmanuel. Shout out to all the other field performers. Like we said, we're just touching on 2 right now. We'll give more segments in the future, but yeah, that's the field report.
Olu, before we finish that off, you'll like this. I spoke to Chase after, and she's like, listen, the one thing I'm missing is an indoor world title. And once I get that, I could throw away indoor forever. Fun fact, she don't even like indoor for real. So that's her big thing. And I think that's the little speck in her really, really nice, picturesque career. She wants that indoor world title. She's going for it. She's gunning for it. So Poland's going to be nice. Johnny, you're going to have a good time. I can't wait to hear you. I can't wait about it. You were about to have a time. But all right, with that being said, guys, that is episode 44. We will see you guys next Tuesday and all the Tuesdays to come. Nia, Johnny, Olu, that's it. That is all. Peace out.